Today, Nvidia's next-gen monster leaks. Meteor Lake isn't coming to desktop. Terrible news for these AMD GPU owners, and RX 8000 will destroy this? Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. First up for today, Nvidia's next-gen monster GPU gets release info and more. This one comes from a new report by DigiTimes, who starts out by discussing TSMC's current issues thanks to their 3nm price jump, but it then goes on to discuss the fact that Nvidia recently signed orders for their 3nm process starting next year. And this is where things get interesting. According to the report, Nvidia's next-generation B100 GPU will use TSMC's 3nm process. And if you didn't know, the B100 would be the GPU that Nvidia uses for their AI accelerator, so the successor to their extremely popular H100. Of course, unlike last generation, it looks like Nvidia plans to use one architecture for both their gaming GPUs and AI accelerators, which means that we can likely expect their gaming cards to utilize a 3nm process as well. Of course, that's not too much of a surprise, but it's still great to hear. Not only that, but they claim the B100 will be released in the fourth quarter of next year. That likely means the 2025 release date for Nvidia's RTX 5000 cards is likely correct, given they usually release their accelerator before their gaming lineup. Either way, I love seeing that progress is being made on the company's next generation. But not as much as I love learning with today's sponsor, Brilliant, the only online learning platform that I trust when I want to learn something new about computers. Simply put, they were built specifically to teach the STEM field, so you can actually trust their courses. But that's not the only reason Brilliant is so awesome. It's really about the fact that they make learning easier than ever, because you learn with Brilliant by doing it yourself with these puzzles that slowly teach you new concepts as you go along. I know it's cliche at this point, but it really does make learning fun. I mean, if I can learn neural networks, Brilliant can teach anyone anything. And speaking of their courses, which neural networks actually is one, they have something for everyone. And today's the perfect day to jump on board, because when you visit my link at brilliant.org/gamermeld, you'll get to try it out for 30 days free. Plus, when you decide to get it, you'll get 20% off the premium for life. Once again, that's brilliant.org/gamermeld. And next up for today, I have a quick follow-up to the story that broke regarding Intel's Meteor Lake CPUs. If you remember, PC World got a chance to interview Intel's general manager of their client computing division, where she claimed this.
Desktop will come in 2024.
So desktop, so you are confirming Meteor Lake desktop?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that was going to be my next question, was whether or not you guys were sort of returning to an era where there was going to be a processor family for mobile and a separate processor family for desktop, but it doesn't sound like that's the case.
That is not the case. I want one processor family top to bottom for both segments.
So yeah, that seemed pretty clear. Meteor Lake is coming to desktop, which told us the rumors about it being canceled for desktop weren't true. Well, in a new statement to Computer Base, Intel clarified that she was actually referring to all-in-one desktop PCs, meaning it isn't actually coming to their LGA 1851 socket. Now, there's some debate as to whether it was PC World's fault for not being more specific in the question, or Intel's for not knowing what the interviewer meant. And I will say that she was being interviewed by PC World, so the context there should be obvious. Plus, she specifically mentioned having one processor family from top to bottom, and given all-in-one PCs essentially just use the same chips used in laptops anyway, it's more like bottom to bottom. I guess I can see both sides, but I personally don't think it was PC World's fault for thinking the way they did. You know, I'll never forget years ago when reviews dropped for AMD's RX 480. I was on lunch break in my car just amazed at how great of a GPU it was. Sure, it wasn't the fastest card on the market, but it was a very fast mid-range GPU for a measly $200. Needless to say, those days are long since dead, but it had such an impact on me that I likely wouldn't be where I am today without it. And that's why I really didn't want to run this story today. But according to a well-known leaker, Kepler on Twitter, AMD is planning to end support for their Polaris-based GPUs, which means the 400 series, 500 series, etc. In fact, according to Kepler, all GCN-based GPUs will be deprecated later this year, which also means all of AMD's Vega GPUs as well. In fact, this would include everything before their RDNA 1 base cards, so the oldest GPUs supported after this will be their RX 5000 series. Now, if this is true, I'm under the assumption that AMD would pick pick and choose certain GPUs to remain. Think about the integrated graphics in their APUs that were released not long ago. Of course, he does say all GCN products, but including those APUs I think would be a big misstep. With that said, AMD will likely still issue security updates for a while, but don't expect day one driver support or anything like that. And given these are gaming cards, driver updates are extremely important for newer titles. Ultimately, this really just sucks. And lastly for today, AMD's RX 8000 GPU specs have leaked. And let's just say this could be AMD's new RX 480 moment. If you haven't been following the channel, to which if you aren't, definitely make sure to subscribe. If you already are subscribed, you likely know that quite a few rumors are claiming that AMD's RX 8000 GPUs will not include high-end cards, meaning what AMD did with their RX 400, 500, and even 5000 series cards. And that's obviously a bummer because it means Nvidia can now jack up the price of their 90 and 80 cards higher than ever, as if they aren't already insanely priced, but this certainly won't help. With that said, as I mentioned in my last story, the RX 480 was an amazing release. It redefined the mid-range market, and given AMD won't have to focus on competing in the high end, it could bring their focus back to price to performance. And this brings me to a new video from Red Gaming Tech, who's gotten word on specs for AMD's next-gen GPUs. Specifically, he has two different possible configurations for two cards. And as you can see, the higher-end SKU comes with 32 workgroup processors, which means 64 CUs or 4096 cores. What's interesting about that is that it's more cores than AMD's current 7800 XT, meaning if this comes to something like an RX 8600 XT, it would be faster than their current 7800 XT. So to say we're talking a huge performance jump would be an understatement. It also comes with GDDR7 with some different possibilities in bus size and infinity cache. Regardless, I think the big news here is their 64 CUs. Don't forget that Nvidia's made it pretty clear that DLSS is the future for them, so they likely aren't planning a giant leap in performance, which could mean AMD's next gen will dominate the mid-range market yet again. Of course, it's very early to say, but I'm definitely still excited for next gen. So while that does it for today, are you still running a Polaris or Vega GPU? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to try out Brilliant for free at brilliant.org/gamermeld. And as always, have a great day.